We are locked always into contention and conflict. And we keep not being able to see what is on the horizon. And so we miss the opportunities for social transformation, for economic transformation. It's not unusual because as the society changes, you can have winners and you can have losers, which is the case whenever there is change. The purpose of youth is to ensure that change happens. Because people who are vested, people who are so steeped in the way they have been doing things, people who are already in position, usually have no incentive to change. What I wanted to say to you, as young people who are being called upon now to advise the government, is that the way of thinking that got Jamaica into the problems that it has been for the last 40 years cannot be the way of thinking that is going to take us out of the problems. The unfortunate thing about Jamaica is that there is a way of thinking that dominates. It dominates our press, dominates our intelligentsia, dominates our opinion leaders, just a way of thinking that is very myopic, very narrow, doesn't do wide research, but it's very reactionary. And, you know, expect them to jump out of the woodworks at me again. And you will know who they are. But you know me, I just talk it straight. That is the reality of our country. And I'm speaking to young people, and I want you to appreciate that fact. That don't come to the government to give the same advice that got us into the problems before, the same way of thinking. We want new ways of thinking, a broader, more global world view and outlook. I want you to have a different perspective on yourself as to who you are as a Jamaican in the global community. Because you're not just citizens of Jamaica, you must see yourself as citizens of the world, and you want to participate not just on the Jamaican stage, but you want to be on the world stage. And so your standard of excellence is not just Jamaica standard, you want world standard. And you should be advising the government how we are going to lift Jamaica standard to world standard. And you must not be afraid to challenge those persons who for years have captured the channels of communications, and only their opinions matter and their perspectives should count. Challenge them, because it was their way of thinking that got us into the problems in the first place. And we must change those ways of thinking. And so I'm always happy, Minister, to bring young people in. If you notice, we have brought in a lot of young people in our political organization. And we have used, and gender as well, deliberately and specifically we have done that, to bring a diversity of thinking to challenge the old order of thinking. Because we need new ways of thinking to get out of the problems that we are in. So let me use that as a backdrop. Because as young people, one of the things you're going to be facing immediately as you leave school is to get a job, to become employed. Now, there was a time in Jamaica's history, I'm told, when, as you leave university, there's a job waiting for you. In fact, they couldn't wait for you to leave university. There's a job there for you. Right? What a time. That was obviously in the 60s. But even then, unemployment was still fairly high. But in a certain category, structurally, in a certain cohort, there were jobs. So there was high structural unemployment. There were, not enough jobs for other categories of work. But certainly, because the economy was growing, we needed managers, we needed engineers. We are now at a point where all the signs are showing that we are about to take off in our economic growth. Our economy is recovering. It has recovered rapidly, much faster than we had expected. And in fact, Statin just released new unemployment figures, the lowest unemployment in Jamaica's history, 6.2%. Now, at 6.2%, there is still a great deal of persons who would be unemployed. Possibly between 75 and 80,000 Jamaicans would be unemployed. But we can't, as the government, just sit by and say, oh, this is so great. Because you have to be considering what happens when you get to 3% unemployment. Would we have enough labor to keep the industries going? We have to be thinking about these things. And could Jamaica ever reach a point in its development where businesses want to come here, to relocate here, to do business here, with our birth rate basically at replacement, meaning that the population is not growing fast, with net migration, about 25,000 Jamaicans leave on average on a yearly basis, most of them trained. Where will we find the labor? Very important point for our consideration. And this is something our young people should start to think about. Because if you were to take, for example, construction, we have, and I'm just speaking about the hotel industry, we have approximately 8 projects, which are large projects, that should come on board. We may be able to find most of the skilled labor. We will have to now ramp up very quickly our training institutions so that we can plan to meet the demand that is to come. But bear with me a little bit. To be considered in the labor force, you have to be of a certain age, at minimum 14, and you have to be actively looking for work. The challenge we have in our society is that there are many persons who are able-bodied, of age, some are in school. So that's legitimate. You are in school, you're working, some persons are homemakers and they are at home. That's legitimate. But we have a large number of Jamaicans doing a pastime, boring a hole in their hand middle. And we need to get those young people now into the labor force. because that is an important consideration. How do we attract them into the labor force? We have to provide them with training, but we also have to adjust attitudes, mindset, because some don't want to work. And some, you put them to work on the site and it's problems. Lack of discipline, and some of them are there, you know, to carry out gang activity. So there needs to be a national mobilization of our young people. And we had started this with the HOPE program. Unfortunately, that was derailed because of the COVID-19 pandemic. We're going to resume that program and get our young people back into a national service training program to help to adjust their attitudes so that they can become trainable and then employable. But the problem is one that is, you know, greater than a short-term fix, which is what we're going to try to do. We have to look at the total human capital development, starting from early childhood, going straight through to university. And the Ministry of Education, we now have the task force report, and we will be implementing many of the measures there. But the ministry would have already started, for example, 7 years of schooling program. They put out their new sixth form program, trying to just keep our young people attached to institutions so that even if they are not exposed to intense training, we still capture them and keep them exposed, and as much as possible, we try to adjust their behavior and their mindset so that they can gain skills and employment upon leaving the education system. But even after leaving the education system at age 18, there still needs to be, given our social context, a structured program of engaging our youth. And we are now contemplating how we can have a national program of service. As I said before, compulsory national service. Some people have a different interpretation of that. But essentially, what we are contemplating is that if you're 18 and over, you're not in school, you're not employed, the point of fact is that you should be attached to something in the society that will help you to adjust as a citizen and to develop skills so that you can participate effectively in the labor pool and be productive. That's the thinking, that's the idea. Now, how do we mobilize the society around this? There are many differing perspectives, and there ought to be genuine debate and discussions. But I want you, the young people, to be the advocates for this. To think of the creative ways in which the government can develop programs that will attract young people, so that we don't have to say it's compulsory. We should be able to design the program that young people want to come in, and that those who are deviant and don't want to, those are the exception. We developed the Jamaica National Service Corps with the JDF. We have a capacity to train let's say, out pre-COVID and coming out of COVID now, we could probably do 1,000 per year. We have sometimes 5,000, 6,000 persons applying because they see the value in that program. So we need to create similar programs that will support our young people in the development of attitude, knowledge, and skills. And that is how we're going to craft the program. For example, there is a great need in Jamaica right now for persons to work in logistics and business process outsourcing. The fundamental skills for that would be a fairly good command of the language, the English language. A foreign language would help. A good command of mathematics and financial literacy. A good command of computer skills. Many of our students are leaving our educational institutions and they may have command of those skills, but they probably don't have the discipline and the mindset as yet. And we need to therefore, as a remediation program, but as an important structural program to order our population into the, when I say order, to structure in a seamless way, because people misinterpret. We have to choose your words so carefully these days. But to have a structured way in which our population transitions from school to workforce, where our businesses can plan and there is great alignment of skills and needs. So we need to have programs similar to the National Service Corps. We could develop a program, for example, for logistics and business process outsourcing, where it is done on an apprenticeship basis. Persons are brought in, they have a stipend, there is a particular course of activity. They do a one-year tour of duty, helping governments, for example, in digital transformation and in other areas, which we had started, so that we have a pool that we can say, here are persons who are trained and exposed and ready to be taken on into the industry. And so this is the general thinking that the government is having. And what I would want is to have the Youth Advisory Council start to tear that apart, make suggestions as to what area of national service could be developed into a service corps that could bring our young people in, where we could give them a stipend, we could assign them to areas of voluntary work, we could have training sessions with them to keep them attached, keep them active. And if we are able to do that and compete effectively with the gangs, we would be able to certainly make an impact on this emerging labor crisis that we could have. So those are some thoughts that I would like to share with you. So we want a different outlook on our problem. We want you to be innovative and creative. And of course, we want you to be solutions oriented. We know enough about the problems, right? Everybody is about the problem. What I want now is, let's get some solutions to the problem. But you also have an important role of being advocates. Not every solution, not every piece of advice that you give is going to be immediately acceptable. It could be good advice, but it has to be promoted. There has to be an advocate. There has to be someone who is strongly speaking up and recommending. And we want you to become strong voices, strong advocates for change. So not just to advise the government, but to be vocal in your advice and to be advocates for change. As the council, you will have to work as a team. I'm not expecting that you will all share the same perspective on issues. In fact, I would be disappointed. But when you speak as a council, you would have to speak as one. So it means that you have to deliberate internally. And I'm expecting that you will have robust debate, but we don't want the council to have 3 mouths. We only expect to hear one voice. So, some of you may be veterans to this. You may have already served in various capacities, but you should work in support of each other. You know, at this level, persons can get nervous, persons, you know, can be overwhelmed. But if you work together as a team supporting your colleagues, I'm sure that all of you will benefit from the learning experience. So again, let me say how pleased I am to see the council thriving, moving from one administration to another, to the next administration. Obviously, the Ministry of Education benefited. And I believe you would have served, advised other ministers as well. And Minister, you may want to expand them. You know, maybe the minister who has responsibility for information, he may need some guidance. Yeah, so who knows, maybe we could, you know, set up a subcommittee to make sure that our communication is on point with young people. People understand what the government is doing. So again, let me congratulate you. Let me wish you all the best, and I'm looking forward to your advice.
Innovative, creative, solution-oriented, be an advocate. No 3 mouths, 1 voice, and teamwork. You have some very big shoes to fill, Youth Advisory Council, but I know you are up to it and will rise to the occasion. And so another round of applause for the Honorable Prime Minister for his charge this afternoon. Thank you, Prime Minister. Now the moment you have all been waiting for. Now, the Youth Advisory Council of Jamaica is comprised of 12 young persons who have demonstrated exceptional potential in their achievements and their drive to make a contribution to their communities. The tenure of this cohort, the 3rd cohort of the YACJ, runs from 2021 to 2023. The membership is one of gender balance, with 6 males and 6 females. This is in alignment with the guiding principles of the National Youth Policy. The composition of this council is a step in ensuring our policies, programs, and projects are of the positive youth development approach and represents gender balance.
There are also 5 permanent committees, also known as standing committees of the Youth Advisory Council of Jamaica, and this is to assist with the proper execution of the YACJ mandate. The permanent committees are as follows: the Secretariat Committee, Budget and Finance Committee, Parliamentary Oversight Coordination Committee, Policy Review and Research Committee, and the Public Relations Committee.
Shakira, I'm just so excited after what the Prime Minister had to say to us, sir, but you know we have to hand the baton over to them. Aren't you excited now? So we're now going to invite the Most Honourable Prime Minister and the Minister of Education and Youth, along with Dr. Shroop, to assist in the presentation of the instruments of office. Ms. Williams, please assist. Yes, please, Prime Minister. Orville Levy. Orville Levy is a projects engineer and operations technical assistant at Total Jamaica and holds a Bachelor of Engineering in Mechanical Engineering and a certificate in youth work. Mr. Levy intends on contributing to national youth development through contributing to sustainable policy formulation and program development by ensuring the views and solutions from youth are represented and considered. He acts as the co-chairman of the National Youth Advisory Council of Jamaica 2021-2023.
Yannick Tracy. She's an enthused youth advocate who has dedicated her life to volunteering in the areas of community development and youth empowerment, being one of the founding members of the Nannyville Uprising Youth Action Club since June 2005. She's a young lady who strives to always represent the voice of youth and acts as the co-chair of the National Youth Advisory Council of Jamaica.
Alicia Henry's love for leadership started to bloom from her days at the Montego Bay High School for Girls and continued to blossom during her tenure at the university level. Alicia believes in the wise words of Brian Tracy that posits a goal without a plan is only a dream, and dedicates her successes to the plans she would have employed and guidance of the Lord.
Angeli Fennell. She was born and raised in the parish of St. Mary, and she's a motivated college graduate who is highly organized and has been organizing youth development initiatives for over 8 years. She's a leader who is passionate about youth empowerment and service.
Andrew Hines. Andrew Hines is an educator by profession and is the immediate past vice president with responsibility for national and international affairs in the Jamaica Union of Tertiary Students. He's a former national youth parliamentarian and is currently reading for a Master of Science in Development Studies, concentration on governance and public policy.
Andrew Johnson. Andrew Johnson is a young professional in the transport aviation sector, where he serves in the engineering department at the Aeronautical Telecommunications Limited, the company that awarded him with a full scholarship as an engineering student at the University of Technology. Finally, Andrew is a founding member of a charitable foundation, the Middlesex Foundation, and he's most recently represented Jamaica at the Commonwealth Youth Parliament.
Javon Mowat. Mr. Mowat is an IT professional who specializes in web development, business analysis, and project management. He also served in youth leadership at the national level. He was a member of the 2019 cohort of the National Youth Parliament of Jamaica, where he served through his tenure as the county coordinator for Middlesex and was youth prime minister in the 2019 sitting.
Natalie Brown. Natalie is a 25-year-old attorney at law who was called to the Jamaican bar in December 2020. She has an unequivocal passion for youth development, which is evidenced by her involvement in numerous outreach programs.
Nicholas James. Nicholas is a policy and research specialist and is currently employed as habitat coordinator within the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation. He is very knowledgeable of various government policies and procedures. Nicholas continues to support youth within his community and parish, as well as students at the University of the West Indies through volunteerism and mentorship activities. Just read it.
Rashane Ferron. Rashane is a communications practitioner with years of experience in public relations, marketing, events, and planning. And colleague, Mr. Ferron is the holder of a Bachelor of Arts degree in Communication Arts and Technology and was a member of the 2019 cohort of the National Youth Parliament of Jamaica.
Unfortunately, he could not be here with us today, but Angeli will collect on his behalf. Tonian Mundell. Tonian believes in service above self as a guiding principle in her journey to become a youth leader. Having completed her Bachelor of Medicine and Surgery at the University of the West Indies, she worked as a medical doctor in the public health sector. She has unique perspectives that she brings as a youth advisor, informed in the belief that youth innovation in local industries can significantly advance socioeconomic growth. She's also unavoidably absent, and Angelie will collect on her behalf.
Yannick Mendez. Yannick is an aspiring academic and political scientist. She was born in St. Anne, but now spends most of her time in Kingston. She believes in the future of our country and has dreams of making an indelible impact in creating a more equitable and inclusive society. She's an ardent advocate and serves marginalized and undeserved youth in her community.
She was unavoidably absent today, and Yannick Tracy has collected on her behalf. Ladies and gentlemen, we present to you the National Youth Advisory Council 2021-2023. Thank you. Thank you, Prime Minister. Thank you, Minister, and thank you, CEO. Now, at this time, Shakira, they have been presented with their mandate and their instruments of office. So at this time, ladies and gentlemen, please help us in welcoming Mr. Orville Levy and Ms. Yannick Tracy, co-chairs of the National Youth Advisory Council of Jamaica, with their response on behalf of the Council.
Most Honorable Andrew Holness, Prime Minister, the Honorable Favour Williams, Minister of Education and Youth, the Honorable Robert Nesta Morgan, Minister without Portfolio in the Office of the Prime Minister, Mrs. Maurice Dwyer, Permanent Secretary acting in the Ministry of Education and Youth, Dr. Hassan Thorpe, Acting Chief Education Officer.
To the Youth and Adolescent Division at the Ministry of Education and Youth, to our brilliant youth advisors in our audience, to our Masters of Ceremony, Mr. Kellia and Mrs. Douglas. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, we're married, no worry. Speaking it into being. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, youth leaders, specially invited guests joining us online, good afternoon. To the Honorable Prime Minister, the Most Honorable Andrew Holness, and the Ministry of Education and Youth, the Honorable Favour Williams, thank you for the consideration and implementation of a platform such as the Advisory Council that allows us to bridge the communication gap between the Government of Jamaica and all priority groups across the island. And I just want to say, Mr. Prime Minister, the speech you gave just now was very exhilarating because we are prepared and we are ready and we cannot wait. Today is today's monumental for us. Can you fix this mic, please? They're close to me. Yeah, all right. Today is monumental for us as the implementation and installation of the YACJ reaffirms your commitment to include youth in the decision-making process and issues of national importance. The Council wishes to extend our sincere gratitude to our previous State Minister of Education and Youth, Honorable Robert Nesta Morgan, and to the Youth and Adolescent Division of the Ministry of Education and Youth for your consistent support and guidance. Special acknowledgement is being made to our then Senior Director, Miss Jamie Ann Chavans. Thank you to the dynamic duo, Miss Williams and Miss Campbell, of the YAPD. Round of applause for them, please. All right. So your partnership and supportive leadership is appreciated. Thank you. The Council looks forward to this continued partnership. We will continue to build on the work done to date, such as ensuring the successful sitting of the successful National Youth Parliament, and the policy recommendations tabled in the 12 sittings are brought to fruition and are treated with a matter of urgency through a proposal and action plans that was submitted. We will continue to lead and advocate for initiatives that empower and educate our youth populace towards change and positive development, such as we did in our Youth Get Vax COVID-19 campaign, the Youth Think Tank Forum 2022, and the monitoring of the county and constituency projects spawned from an extensive county consultation of youth across Jamaica. And this cohort is big on consultation. We seek out the voice of our young people before we move. Such projects include the Digital Literacy Program and Workshop, the Dare to Dream Vision 2030 Virtual Symposium, and empowerment session of youth employability skills and period poverty.
As a youth focal point, we will continue to be a voice at the table for youth of our nation. We look forward to the continued support and partnership of the ministry and at the government levels to champion youth policy reform and youth development program for the holistic development of the Jamaican youth. To my fellow council members, thank you for your hard work and dedication. It is highly appreciated. This appointment is one I know each of you take with the utmost responsibility and humility. I charge you to use this occasion to grant you a renewal of purpose and a greater sense of responsibility to our fellow youth. We were all selected because of our dedication and commitment to transforming the physical and legislative framework to make Jamaica the place of choice to live, work, raise families, and do business. The work ahead is much, but I know each of you is up to the task. As the highest youth office, we stand on our true existence to bridge the gap and to mainstream youth issues into policies and government programs and activities through position papers, influencing youth policy reform during all phases from development to implementation and evaluation. To the youths of our nation, we charge you to take hold of your collective futures by investing the time and action now. We cannot stress enough, we are your sounding board. Do not hesitate to contact us. As co-chairs, we believe heavily, as Ms. Tracy mentioned earlier, in consultation with us. We ask you to reach out either to us directly or via our social media pages or email address, that's at YACJ Jamaica, and at JAYouthAdvisoryCouncil@gmail.com to let us know what actions, policy prescriptions, input and representation you would like us to champion on your behalf. Our council hinges on the arms of servant leadership. We are here and we are in this capacity because of you. God bless you, and God bless Jamaica land we love. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Another round of applause for Mr. Levy and Miss Tracy. We now invite the Honorable Minister of Education and Youth, the Honorable Favour Williams, with some closing remarks.
Thank you so much. As we close this session this afternoon, I just want to say how very delighted I am again to meet you in person, and that I do look forward to working with you. There's lots to be done to complete your tenure. We have lots of ideas, Yannick will tell you, ways to engage you. We want to hear from you as well. But as we close, let me say that the education sector has been, as you know, most negatively impacted by COVID over the past 2 years. Our parents or students or teachers would have made significant efforts to keep our students, or the majority of our students, significantly engaged with their education. Most recently, on March 7th, as you would have seen, we opened schools again for full face-to-face, and we've been seeing the increase in the attendance level of our students. Since we've come back into this new school year, starting in September of last year, and students have begun to think about exams again, we would have been hearing the concerns primarily from our students in our high schools about the upcoming CSEC and CAPE exams, because they were coming out of the pandemic. And although they were able, most of them, to be engaged online, it was not quite the same thing as being in the classroom. And so back in January of this year, in collaboration with the National Secondary Students Council, we conducted a survey, well, in February 23, between February 23 and March 8th, just asking the views of students about how they feel about their preparedness for the exams, and to give us a sense of the go forward for both the CSEC and CAPE. And out of that survey, we surveyed 2,812 students, and 1,754 of them really had concerns. They expressed the need for additional time to prepare for the sitting of the these exams. And so the ministry would have taken steps to raise this concern with CXC. And when we look back at what we've done, we would have raised the concern with CXC back in January of 2022, and again in March. And these would have been oral as well as written concerns. In every conversation I've had with CXC, we would raise it. And you would have seen and heard their response. Well, you know, we believe our students here in Jamaica deserve additional time for their exams. And so today I would have written to the Honorable Kay McConney, who is the new Minister of Education in Barbados, but she's also the chair of the council, the CARICOM's Council for Human and Social Development, which is COSAD, and it's that body to which we will be taking this. I've asked her for an urgent meeting so that we can convene that with that body for us to present our case to them as to why we believe the exams, the dates should be pushed back, and some of the other accommodations that they made last year, we're asking for those as well. We believe that our students in Jamaica and across the region have been significantly impacted. They have tried, you know, especially students who have their school-based assessment work to do. They absolutely need more time. And so we will be advocating strenuously for this. COSAD is the kind of last level, you know, in terms of upping the severity or upping, you know, just calling attention to this problem. So I want our Jamaican students to know that their cries have been heard. We've indicated this all along in terms of what we've been doing, the letters we've been writing and the conversations and so on. But we're at a point now where we have to call an urgent meeting for this this council, Council for Human and Social Development, in order to help us to get the you know, to get some attention to our request. Yes, we understand that CXC has indicated that if students are not ready, they can defer, but we do not believe that that is the only option that should be available for our students. It's one option, but shouldn't be the only option. So I wanted to let our Jamaican students know this, and no better forum in which to do this than with our Youth Advisory Council. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Minister and Youth Advisory Council. If what not better example or way to see advocacy at work than through our own Minister. Thank you, Minister, again for those words. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the very end of what I'm sure you'll all agree has been a very inspiring installation session for the third cohort of the National Youth Advisory Council.
And we want to say, before you go, congratulations. We know the road ahead is filled with a lot of what our Prime Minister has described as challenges, but be an example to our young people, you know, what stellar conduct, advocacy, and just stick-to-itiveness can be. So congratulations and all the best.
No three mouths,
one voice.
We'd like to thank each and every participant here and online for joining, for supporting the work of the Ministry of Education and Youth, specifically the Youth and Adolescent Policy Division, and all persons who collaborated to make this event a success. All the very best, continue to keep safe, and it's over and out from Malik.
And over and out from Shakira.
Have a good evening.